Showtime.
Her powerful voice has been compared to the likes of Martina McBride, Jennifer Nettles, and Patty Griffin. And when she first appeared on The Voice, Adam Levine nearly threw his back out from turning his chair around in just under 3 seconds.
Please welcome to the Rosie and Bill show from Glen Olden, PA, by way of Nashville, Tennessee, Audrey McLaughlin. Audrey, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be on the show. It means a lot that you guys asked me to do this. Appreciate it.
I'll tell you, we've had some incredible guests on the show, Audra, and I am so happy and privileged for every single one that comes on. But every once in a while, we'll have a guest where I get a little bit extra excited. So I'll try to keep as calm as possible. But I'm really pumped about having you on the show.
Oh, thank you so much. I think it's so cool. I love the Pennsylvania and the Delco connection. It's just, I love the whole hometown connection. It's awesome.
Yeah, and we're going to get into a little bit of that a little bit later because we've got a lot of stuff that we want to talk with you about. But if you don't mind, I'd like to start with that moment that I just spoke about when introducing you. And when you were on The Voice and I talked about how Adam turned around at like record speed. And by the time you hit that last high note, you were standing across from 8 eyeballs looking at you and 4 judges all but begging you to join their team. How did that feel?
Whew. I just remember, I always describe it as like, I feel like I just totally was like in a dream because it was one of those moments that like, I even had to watch it back to like, remember like, oh my God, where was my head in that moment? I think really like what it was like, don't forget the words, don't forget the words, don't forget the words. And then just seeing all 4 staring at me was like, oh my gosh, like, is this really happening? So I think I just remember like when I watched it back, I was laughing at myself because I just laughed the whole time because I was so nervous and I was like, I can't believe this is happening, And then watching my parents' reaction was just so cool because they had, always waited for a moment like that for my career because they've always been so supportive. So yeah, that was a pretty crazy moment for sure. It's still unreal that it even happened.
I mean, that's got to be incredible because you work so hard. And years ago, my bandmate did make it to the blind auditions there. And I remember how grueling the schedule was for all of you performers. I mean, you're up at 4 a.m, you're singing at ungodly hours really early when, most of the time, most people aren't even awake yet.
Yeah.
What was that process like?
Oh yeah, that was a lot. I think it was kind of like a sort of a crash course to the music business because I mean, I was 21 years old and I had never been on television before, So, I mean, for me, it was definitely a learning process because we were up, like you said, like 4 a.m. doing interviews with NBC and different news networks, like in our hometowns and like just different places and stuff like that. And then we were like heading to like choreography, and then we were in vocal lessons. And then, we had to be in our hotel rooms a lot, rehearsing our songs that we had to memorize because, can't mess up on live TV. I mean, it happens, but it'd be super, super embarrassing for that. But yeah, it was definitely a grueling schedule. There was a lot of times where I just remember sitting like, it was like 1 o'clock in the morning and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so tired. And like, we're like not finished like any of like the interview process yet. And then I remember we had to be up back early, like the next day. Like
there's a reason it's a younger business. Like there's a reason.
Oh,
because you really do need stamina.
Yeah. And I think that's where like a lot of like things that they teach us too is to keep your immune system up. Like when I was on the show, I mean, we drank a lot of water. We took a ton of vitamins and, we worked out, like we just kind of kept our immune systems built because the thing with that is that you're in a hotel room with like another person. And if they get sick, you're going to probably get sick. and you don't want to get sick while you're in the middle of a competition. Cause I mean, it happened to a few people, and some people like had the flu and still had to go on stage. I mean, it was crazy. So, you know, you're in those hotel rooms and there's not like ventilation really. So you have to just really like take care of yourself, and your immune system is really, really important when you're in that process.
Audra, before we leave this particular topic, so you ended up being on Team Blake, even though he was the second one to turn around. So
yeah.
So that's good. Did you go in knowing you wanted to work with him?
I did. I remember when I had the interview process with the producers, there was like 50 producers, and you go in, it's so nerve-wracking because literally all they do is stare and they make no face expression whatsoever. And I remember Michelle McNulty, the casting director, asked me, you know, so who do you think, you know, you would pick? And I just blurted out Blake, and they were like, okay, good answer. And then they sent me on my merry way. But I just knew from the beginning, I just wanted to pursue a career in country, and, you know, and I just felt like Blake would be the best to kind of lead me in that direction. And I was happy. I mean, I would have been happy to be on anybody's team, you know. That was a super cool experience. But yeah, I was glad I got to work with Blake. He was super sweet.
You know, Audra, I wanted to just throw one other thing out there too with regard to Blake, because if I remember correctly, right before you said, I'm going to go with my gut and pick Blake, he made reference to how he kind of compared you singing Angel from Montgomery to Miranda, his wife at the time.
Yeah. What
I thought was interesting was, I remember she was on a show years ago called Nashville Star, and she didn't win.
She came
Buddy Jewel won, but she did pretty well.
Yeah, she did. She ended up doing really good.
Yeah, and
there were a couple people that came off that show that actually did really well. Like, I think Chris Young was on there.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, so there was a couple different country music stars that are pretty huge that came off of that show. So yeah, Miranda's awesome. I love her voice.
Yeah, but he as much as I know he loved the way she sang that song, I do believe he talked about when you hit that last note, some fireworks going off, and I think with Team Blake streaming down or something.
Something funny like that. He's comical in that sense. So
yep.
He's quick.
Oh yeah, he's so quick. Me, on the other hand, I'm like sitting there trying to think like, oh my God, what is he saying to me right now? Like, I'm so nervous. I don't even know how to respond to any of this information.
Yeah, I think when you get nervous, sometimes your hearing turns off.
Oh, literally. It was like almost like I went like dark. I was like, what?
Not too many times that you get a greater feeling than seeing four people that are at the top of their game, at the top of the industry, turn around because they want you and they believe.
Yeah.
So congratulations.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Now, just a few short years after that, Audra, something major happened and your voice was all but silenced. In fact, it was about 2018. Tell us what happened.
Yeah, so I, right after The Voice, I was touring a lot. I was doing like a ton of shows. I was doing like a full out NASCAR circuit, and then a lot of like small clubs, but like I was singing 3-4 hour sets and stuff. And I still do that now, but I had to learn kind of how to properly, sing and whatnot. I think a lot of it was overuse. And then I remember I started kind of losing my voice, and I thought it was just allergies because I'd always suffered pretty badly with allergies, and it was allergy season. So I remember going to like just a regular ENT, and he kept saying that I had nodules, but he said just to go on vocal rest. So the same problem kept happening like every couple of weeks. So finally he sent me to a specialist in Philadelphia, to Dr. Sadaloff, and they, scoped me, and they said that I had a cyst, which cysts are a little bit more invasive than nodules. And they said basically, we could try vocal therapy, but you're most likely going to have to get this taken out. And I said, well, if I have to get it taken out, how long will it be until I can possibly sing again? And she was like, to be honest, it could be 6 months to a year. And I was like, what? And of course, me and my dad were crying. I don't know, my dad never cries. He was like, what do you mean? Like, what is she going to do? Like, and it was just really hard to adjust to that realization that like, wow, like, I don't even know if I'm ever going to get my voice back the way that, that it was before, kind of thing. So it was very traumatic. I mean, I know things could have been worse, and I always do say that, but I mean, when you take away something that you love so much, like it's part of you, so that whole year was like, I had to go to therapy like 3 times a week, and speech therapy and vocal therapy to basically get my strength. And then at home, I had to do a ton of different exercises. Like it was crazy. Like it was basically, I watched probably every show on Netflix. Like, I think I became like the top leading person to watch Netflix that particular year. But I don't know. I think it gave me a lot of time to sort of like reflect and realize how important it is to take care of your voice, because a lot of times, you get out doing touring and stuff, and you're up late at night and you're not getting the right rest you need, and you're not using your voice properly, and you're not utilizing the time that you need to as far as vocal rest. And I think more than ever, that's a lot of what I've learned is when I start to feel that my voice is just fatigued and I don't have a show that day, I just shut it down for the rest of the day, and I just kind of chill and stay hydrated and put a movie on or something like that, and kind of just chill out. So yeah, that was crazy. That was a miserable time for sure. I hope I never have to go through that again.
We hope not to.
Yeah. I always do say, I think it was a good thing at the time when it happened, because I wasn't doing a lot of what I'm doing now. Like I wasn't as busy, like I would say at that particular year. Like things had kind of slowed down a little bit. So it kind of happened at a decent time, because I was getting ready to move to Nashville that year. And then I basically said, you know what, I'm just going to wait until I fully recover and then move to Nashville.
Audrey, let's face it, you talked earlier about, the local connection, and, we love a good comeback story. We love a good underdog story, and
Yeah.
kudos to you for, like you said, you almost lost that gift, that ability to do, what you love to do. And I'm so glad you shared that, because to me, I appreciate you now even more, knowing you went through that and came back. And, I want to get back to that local piece just for a second, because you live in Nashville now, but as Rosie mentioned in your introduction, you're from Glen Olden, which is part of Delco, or Delco, Pennsylvania. And that's something you and I have in common.
Yeah.
And what I know is, for years, those of us from Delco, we've been kind of the brunt of a lot of jokes from comedians in different places. They make fun of the way we talk and the way we say water, and things like that. But
yeah.
I also know that people born and raised in that suburban Philadelphia area known as Delco have a lot of pride. So I want to ask you, what does being from Delco mean to you?
Oh man, like you said, I think the pride and just the overall, just our city in general, I feel like even like with all of our sports and like everything like that, I just feel like I just love the energy. I mean, I'm a huge Philadelphia Eagles fan, and I love all my Philly sports teams, and I love the pride behind that. And also, even just looking back on when I was on The Voice, I mean, the support that I had, during that time, and even still to this day, is just so amazing to me, because these people are so loyal, and they continue to come to shows, and they continue to share my stuff on Facebook and communicate with me. And they're just so kind, and that's like the biggest thing I think with Delco is that, it's just that cool kind of like, I don't know. It's one of those things that's hard to describe, but it's your hometown. It's like, it's just so nice to have that love and support from so many people through the years. And it's super cool to grow up there. So I was definitely happy that, that I got to grow up in such a great town around a lot of great people. So.
Well, you've done your hometown proud. No question about that.
I appreciate that.
Well, we have a lot more to talk to the lovely Audra about, and she's even going to sing for us a little later. But now it's time for 60 Seconds with Coach Lombardi. Take it away, Coach.
I'm loving this interview, Rosie and Bill. Thanks for letting me jump in. So, you may have heard me talk about the blue zones of the world, where people live to be well over 100 years old. Now, one common denominator is that they naturally do over 12,000 steps a day, and that's with no structured or planned exercise. Now, for those of us with busy schedules, or maybe we live in a city, here's a few ways to hit at least 10,000 of those 12,000 steps in your daily routine. The first one is to invest in an Apple Watch, a Fitbit, or even use an app on your phone, and make sure it's always with you so you can track all your movement. Number two is always take the stairs instead of elevators. I know that seems obvious, but even if you take an escalator, walk up. Number three is, since most of us are working from home, pace the house if you're talking on the phone. This is one of my favorites. You will rack up a good 2,000 to 4,000 steps on your calls. And number four, if you have a dog, which I hope you do, walk her every morning first thing and again at night, and you'll be amazed at how many extra steps you'll accumulate just by adding that morning walk. Okay, that's it for today. And if you have a question, be sure to email it to the address below, and I promise to answer it. I'm Coach Lombardi for the Rosie and Bill Show. Back to you guys.
Coach, thanks so much. We always love listening to all the new tips that you have, and they're really, really helpful. And now, Audra, we're going to go back down south to Nashville, because earlier this year, we understand that you signed a publishing and production deal with some pretty heavy hitters, and you're also collaborating on a new EP. Talk to us about who you're working with and what's your writing process like?
Yeah, so back in February, like right before the pandemic hit, I was writing a lot with Johnny Garcia, who is music director for Trisha Yearwood and also lead guitarist for Garth Brooks for over 30 years. And then also Jimmy Mattingly, who has been playing fiddle for Garth Brooks and Trisha for the last 30 years. So it was crazy because I got connected with them through my vocal coach, Katie Hendricks, who I know we will talk about that on a separate project, thing. But she had basically needed me to do some demo work and went through Jimmy, and Jimmy heard my voice and was like, wow, I love your voice. Like I ought to introduce you to Johnny and maybe we can do some writing and stuff together. So it kind of just started that, just building that friendship and that relationship kind of thing, which is really important in Nashville and just anywhere in any business. And we kind of just really bonded in the writing process. And they kind of just started asking me like, hey, what do you really got going on with your career right now? Like, are you under management, or, do you have any type of booking agent or anything like that? I was like, no, I literally just parted ways with an old manager and I'm kind of sort of independent at this point. And they were like, well, why don't we talk about maybe sort of signing you to a co-publishing deal where basically we can produce you and also, you can be a part of the writing process as well as that. And then eventually we can kind of move to the next step as far as pitching you and stuff like that. So that was super cool. I mean, me and my family and I were super excited about that because that was my first ever kind of situation like that since The Voice. That was super, super huge for me because here's two guys that have worked with two of the biggest country artists in country music. And now I get to work with these guys, and I mean, they're literally up on stage with Trisha and Garth through the years, and it's so crazy. But the writing process, I was telling Bill yesterday when we were talking, it's been sort of it's been crazy because we've been doing it over Skype and Zoom. So it was quite of an adjustment because, of course, in Nashville, they always say the magic just happens when you get in the room, in a writer's room or something like that. And for us, we were in different places, we were all quarantined at our houses, but we still were listen, we just signed this deal. We can't just wait until everything opens back up until we can get in the same room together. So we got to figure out ways to write. So we began scheduling 2 or 3 times a week to just get on Skype or Zoom and just do writing. And it was pretty cool because there's so many different apps today that you can use to record demos, and they were sending me guitar tracks from Nashville to me, and I was doing demos and stuff. So it was a pretty interesting kind of way to write, but we got kind of used to it, and it ended up working out really well for us because, I mean, we ended up writing some killer songs that I think will be, I'm super excited to hopefully get out there at some point soon. So
that's wonderful. You're right. You can't wait and just stagnate. You really do have to keep the inspiration and the creative juices flowing.
people in this time do need music in their life. I think like entertainment is so important.
I think, Audra, I think that people are starving for that kind of entertainment or release and things. So, and that's actually, one of the things I want to talk about right now is that and I was going to say one of the things I admire about you, but there's actually a lot more than one. And your determination, your work ethic. You just talked with Rosie about the EP, the writing process. You're out playing and trying to bring some joy and happiness to people.
Yeah.
But you're also working on a couple other things that you touched on a little bit earlier with Katie Hendrickson. I want to get into that now if we could.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of them is a project that I know is involved in a cause that is near and dear to your heart. And then the other, I think, is really cool in terms of a master's class where you're sort of a special example. So let's start with the anti-bullying work that you're doing with Katie. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so Katie Hendricks, I met her about 2 years ago at an event, and her and I just got to talking, and it was an event I was supposed to sing at. And I noticed that she had all these children's books and different things for anti-bullying. And then her and I got to talking, and she said she was also a vocal coach and like a rehabilitation vocal coach. So her and I automatically just connected right away. She just became like a second mom to me. I mean, she's been amazing. I love her so much. And right away, when she heard me, she was like, wow, I'd love to get you involved in some of my, my anti-bullying project called Timmy Tumbully. I would love you to be a part of like the soundtrack, recording the songs and stuff for it. I just feel like, and I said, that's crazy you said that, because like one of my biggest causes that like means so much to me is anti-bullying. I said, like, through the years, I've done so many like speeches at different, parks and different bullying events and stuff like that, because, I had a learning disability growing up, and I also was bullied because of that. So it, it always meant a lot to me to kind of give back in that sense of, try to remind people that things do get better when you kind of just, I sort of just dove into the music, and that was like what brought joy to me, I think. But working with Katie has been awesome. And then of course the pandemic stuff happened, and she was getting ready to bring some of this stuff to Broadway, and it was going to be pretty cool. But, of course, Broadway now I think is shut down, New York, for a couple, maybe 2 years or something like that. So we're kind of in pause right now, but we're still sort of, thinking about ways that we can sort of do things through social media and stuff like that to sort of keep people, up to date with everything going on. But, yeah, that's been awesome to be involved with that for sure.
And you're also involved in master classes with her. You're like the voice of her master classes. What is that about?
Yeah. She's been a vocal coach for years and years. I mean, she has literally helped so many artists. I wish I could name some of them, but some pretty big heavy hitters that she's worked with, and she has literally, saved their voice. I mean, she has saved my voice. I work with her probably 3 times a week on vocal training and just like strengthening and conditioning and stuff like that, because that's so important as a singer, But we had this idea, well, she had an idea of, this time would be a perfect time to start maybe doing like some Skype recordings of like master classes to kind of have a way for people to keep their voice conditioned and strengthened during this particular time, since a lot of entertainers are not out there performing as much. So let's try to come up with a way to give them a package that they can have at the convenience of wherever they are on the road. And that was the biggest thing, because when you're on the road, you're so busy. So at least if they have these master classes, it's like a different episode each time, different vocal techniques, different topics, different, like stage fright, maybe we might talk about stage fright that one day and like how to overcome that, or how I overcame that, just all these different things that we will discuss in like different episodes. And basically I'm involved in like kind of showing the techniques to the people like over like, so she'll kind of tell me to do this certain, technique, and then I'll do it. And then we'll talk about it. And hey, Audra, so what happened here in this particular note? And we kind of dive in it and dissect, okay, well, you didn't use your breath support, this and that. So it's basically it's a great package of full out you kind of get everything that you need, for the road, and just anything that has to do with being a singer, and an entertainer.
Sounds fantastic. I might actually have to sign up for that myself, because I learned the hard way that when you only sing once every 3 or 4 years, it doesn't work out very well.
Well, we describe it too as, and that's like one of our biggest things too, is like, we're vocal athletes, so just like an athlete probably stretches and runs every day or does whatever they do, a vocalist has to train their voice every day, because there is days where you want to have that vocal rest and just kind of chill out and whatnot, but the days when when you don't have a show is when the days you should be strengthening and conditioning your voice to basically be able to hit those notes and not be like, oh wait, can I hit it on the spot? Or you know what I mean? Like those types of things. It's like, you don't want to hit a bad note when you're out there live performing. Like you want to have that whole thing prepared. So it's pretty cool. We're excited about it.
Well, it definitely sounds like it's worth folks' time, and definitely to work with one of the best, like you said, with Katie. And I recently watched, I think it's a YouTube video, you're in it, and it's just kind of a demonstration of what you can expect. And
yeah,
I was pretty impressed just in that short clip with what I saw. So clearly a lot of value and a lot of help for folks that are, like you said, that musical athlete, keeping the voice in shape, which is something that I'm going to work on as soon as we're done this episode, I think, a little bit. But in the meantime, I had one last question, Audrey, that I wanted to ask you.
No problem.
We talked a lot about, how the pandemic and how that's really kind of impacted things. But when things open back up, what are some of the first things that you look forward to doing?
I would like to just, go to a concert. That would be like a dream come true, like just going to see one of my favorite artists, or like a country concert. I miss concerts so much. Those are my favorite things to do.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And I think you're echoing the sentiments of just so many people who are starving for, we're meant to be together. We're not really meant to be isolated the way we are. And I think most people are really handling it quite well and doing the best we can. But at some point, it will be nice to be able to go to concerts and movie theaters.
Baseball games. I love to just go to a baseball game and have a beer and a hot dog and like chill out. You know what I mean? We can't tailgate something. It's like, I miss going to Eagles games, and I miss, sports, how I know they're on, but it's not the same, especially with us being from Philadelphia, like we know our fans, like we thrive, like our sports players thrive off of our fans, so I look forward to all those things once things kind of, hopefully they get a vaccine and, we can get to that point someday. So I pray for that.
We do too, for sure. Well, Audra, this has been just so wonderful to hear your story and your comeback and everything that you're doing to keep your music out there in front of your fans. And people definitely need to hear your voice. So we thank you for being on the show. And on those lines, would you like to close out the show today with a song?
Sure. I would love that.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, Audrey McLaughlin.
This song is called No Never.
I know you look at me, sometimes envy tells. Look closely and you see there's no need wandering back. Will I ever leave you? Will ever I need you? Will ever stop loving you? No, never. You know I believe in you. Will ever stop wanting to. Baby, when it comes to you. No, never. Yeah. So when you feel distance between your heart and mine, your mind. Will I ever leave you? Will I ever not need you? Will I ever stop loving you? No, never. You know I believe in you. Will I ever stop wanting to? Baby, when it comes to you. No, never, yeah. No, 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 baby, no, 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 baby, no, 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 never. Oh, will I ever leave you? Will I ever not need you? Will I ever stop loving you? No.